tag or fry tag? Free? Free.
Fry tag is good.
Oh, fry. Okay, good.
Yeah,
See,
it really doesn't matter.
good that I asked. Hey, everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. My guest today is Margot Freitag. She has written a wonderful new book called Plant Powered Punks that she's going to tell us all about, and she's going to talk to us about raising kids on plants. Please welcome her to the show. It's nice to see you. It's been a while. What have you
It
been?
has. It has. Nice to see you. Thanks for having me.
Of course, tell us what you've been up to other than writing a book.
Well, it has been a full-time job writing a book.
Welcome
It
to my
has.
world. I know people are like, why
Uh,
don't you write a book? Why don't you open a restaurant? Yeah, okay, sure.
and yeah, and developing a membership site actually, and that has also been a big project. So the book is finished and it's published, and now I'm going around and sharing my book with people, and also building a membership site for teachers and homeschooling parents and really families who want to teach kids how to get savvy in the kitchen making plant-based food.
Fantastic. Well, I know you have a PowerPoint to share, so let's do that first because I know we were having a little trouble getting it on the screen, and then we'll talk to you all about your wonderful projects and also your book.
You know, thank you very much, Chef AJ. I really appreciate it. And I apologize for the glitches here. I don't know why we can't get this going, but we're in work mode and it's going to be okay. So I guess I should tell you why I wrote this book, why I created it. It really goes back to when my kids were in elementary school, and I was teaching high school at the time, and I was also raising my kids on a plant-based diet. And I had this idea for a kids cookbook that was taking shape, but the years were busy years, and so it was on the back burner for a really long time. But I was also really tuned into the teenagers that I was teaching and their overall health and energy levels, because I had been a really sick teenager. And my health had really had a significant impact on my academics. And I could see that diet and lifestyle had a really obvious effect on students, and their energy levels and their health and well-being. And you could really see it, I like to say, from their skin to their stride. So it was clear that the kids who ate a better diet, who were getting a good night's sleep, who were active in some way, and all of the things, they also had more of an ability to focus and succeed academically. So it was obvious to me that diet impacts children of all ages. And we really need the schools to be on board with healthier choices for kids. I remember when I was in teachers college, I had a teaching placement at an elementary school. And I recall a staff meeting where the staff was talking about these ongoing fundraisers where the school would collaborate with local fast food restaurants and other fun food lunch option days to raise money for charities. And I remember them going over all of the weekly options in this meeting. And it was like Monday was pizza day, Tuesday was taco time, Thursday was hot dog day. And I remember I was just shocked. And I blurted something out about how unhealthy this is for the kids. And I remember like there was a moment of silence and everybody kind of looked at me. And I thought, oh, I should have kept my mouth zipped. But the reason I couldn't was really because I knew firsthand how bad food can derail young people and can really unravel a child's best efforts academically. And then of course all of the other stuff, the self-deprecation, the impacts on self-esteem and confidence that follow, which is worse today than it's ever been. And I knew this because of my own battles with health in my youth. By the time I was 14, I had weight issues. I was yo-yo dieting, and I had a diet mentality that just sort of took over my world. And I was sick. I didn't know it at the time, but there was also this connection to debilitating asthma and allergies and brain fog and just lethargy and fatigue. So as I moved into my 20s, I worked hard to try to sort out my health and especially the asthma. which was severe, I have to say. Um, there was a miracle. And the miracle was everything changed in my mid-20s. I was studying in Vancouver, and I ended up in a full semester nutrition class taught by Brenda Davis. And her class was literally life-changing. Instead of the expected in Canada, it's the Canada Food Guide. Instead of the Canada Food Guide directed class, Brenda took an entirely different approach, which was some things we eat support our health, and other things we eat contribute to illness. And there was one lesson that really impacted me. I remember this so clearly. It was a lesson about dairy products and the link to type 1 diabetes. And Brenda explained that the beta-casein cells are similar in molecular structure to the beta cells in the pancreas, which are also known as the pancreatic islet cells. And that this, along with leaky gut, can lead to an autoimmune response, leading to type 1 diabetes, where the body has destroyed the islet cells, the insulin-producing cells. And I remember being completely flabbergasted. I was just completely floored. And I remember thinking that I was going to go out and see all of this on the front page of the newspapers any day now, and that parents would be cautioned everywhere. And as the days went by, I realized, sadly, that the public would never be privy to this information. And it really was an awakening for me about the powers that be. So moving on, obviously, like all of us, we did our own education and investigation and found out about the links between illness and nutrition. And especially as a mother and a teacher, I was really interested in how food could impact our health. And here's just a list of, this is not exhaustive, and it's not always nutrition related, but it definitely can be. But all of these things can be definitely linked to the way kids eat: asthma and allergies, skin issues, obesity, of course, type 1 and type 2 diabetes, which used to be called adult onset, constipation, irritable bowel, ear infections, and UTIs. And then, of course, childhood leukemia and cancers, and the fatty streaks, which are the in the arteries, which are the early stages of atherosclerosis, kidney disease. And the culprits are these things, generally speaking: dairy and eggs, animal protein, which is meat and fish, and nowadays insects, processed foods, refined ingredients, additives, GMOs. And then there's the other couple of things that really aren't related to food, but they are. They're just kind of away from the specifics of food. And these are the habits and lifestyle that are so familial. They really are, it's the way we're brought up. And then, of course, these days, the adult, I didn't really know what to call this, but I called it the adult misdirected diet mentality. And we'll get into that a little bit. I want to share a little bit about what I think is going on in today's world with this diet mentality and high protein diets that, adults really do have success losing weight on. It doesn't make them necessarily healthy, and it's not sustainable, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So I'd like to just talk about dairy and your kids. And, a lot of times people say to me, I can't give up everything. I'm not going vegan or whatever that is. What is one thing that I can do? And today I think it's easier than ever to give up dairy. There's so many alternatives. And I think it's probably a really, really important place to start. So there are just so many things about dairy. It's the saturated fat that that is at the root of type 2 diabetes and atherosclerosis, the early stages of that. This is where saturated fat holds all of the toxins and the hormones, and lead is dairy is the leading food source of lead. And then the beta casein, the protein. We know that casein is, as I explained earlier with my lesson with Brenda, at the root of, or at least linked to type 1 diabetes. And then the hormone related cancers, this is all dose related. So, if you're doing this from an early age and all your life, we know that dairy is linked to iron deficiency. And also we know that, milk does not make children's bones stronger. And in fact, over time, it can lead to increased fracture risk later in life. We know that there's the very high levels of calcium. Oddly, of course, this is the big thing, the big sort of marketing campaign for children to drink more milk for bone strength. It leads to constipation. And then, of course, it also leads to iron deficiency. So then we give our kids, iron supplements, which cause even more constipation. Gosh, there are studies that show that getting dairy out of children's lives completely 100% clears up constipation, which I find really interesting. The bacteria, this is really interesting. Lots of bacteria. That's why there's so much pus in milk. The somatic cells are really linked to ear infections. And anybody who's had little kids, if they're drinking milk from a bottle, this is a problem. It's one of the big reasons kids end up in the emergency room. And what's interesting is little bodies, little heads have little eustachian tubes that are more horizontal. And as we grow, our eustachian tubes become more vertical. So, even if you're still drinking milk later on, you're going to be less likely to get an ear infection from milk, not necessarily, but less likely because the eustachian tubes have grown and changed to a more vertical direction, allowing for drainage. But little ones who are laying on their back with these little horizontal eustachian tubes, the bacteria from the milk just sits there and causes ear infections. We know that estrogen is a problem for bone health and skin, and earlier onset of puberty, lower sperm counts, and of course the hormone-related cancers. And then there are a couple of things that I think are important to know for children as well. All dairy cows, all milk is pooled. So all of milk has this Mycobacterium paratuberculosis, a bacteria that leads to Johne's disease, which is the equivalent of colitis and Crohn's in cows. And so there is evidence that Mycobacterium paratuberculosis withstands pasteurization, and it is being found in the guts of people who struggle with colitis and Crohn's. Bovine leukemia virus is present in all dairy herds in North America. Some countries in Europe have eradicated bovine leukemia virus from the herds, but it's taken decades to make that happen. And we know now that bovine leukemia virus is linked to breast cancer. I think almost 40% of breast cancer patients, they find bovine leukemia virus in the breast. And of course, childhood leukemia is the leading cause of, the leading cancer in children. And of course, if you've ever been to an elementary school, the very first thing they do in the morning is they check off who's getting milk, and you hand in your milk money. And so there's still a big push for milk. Kids are drinking a lot of milk. And there is evidence that there's a connection. They say that bovine leukemia virus is identical in molecular structure to the leukemia they're finding in children. Antibiotics, PCBs, dioxins. Well, of course, all of these things are in the fat. The fat is the storage area for these things. And we know that these things are related to cancer. And I put here the asthma and allergies. And, I'm just there. I can't say I know for sure, but my own experience has been when I gave up dairy, the asthma disappeared right away. Now, here's what's really interesting is the antibiotic of choice in dairy, or for dairy farmers, is penicillin. And I'm allergic to penicillin, and I think a lot of people are. And so I can't help but wonder if that was what was such a profound, there was just such a profound change when I gave up dairy, at least part of it, I would say. I just wanted to put this quote in here. I think it's really important. This is a dietitian from the PCRM, Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. She explains taking dairy off your plate can significantly reduce your risk of heart disease and diabetes and cut the chances of being diagnosed with certain cancers by more than 70%. And now I just think it's got to be dose related. We need to get kids making different choices earlier in life. And then, of course, there's just the animal protein in general. And what's really funny is I can't tell you how many people have, told me that they struggle to get their kids to eat meat. I've had parents tell me that they had put meat in the blender to get their kids to eat meat. So I think it's really not that natural for a lot of people. I don't think a lot of people really just naturally like meat. I think it's because we're not really designed for it. There's so much to talk about here, but I'll just say briefly, we know animal protein is linked to all stages of cancer proliferation. Dr. Colin Campbell explains that when protein levels reach 11% of daily calories, it can stimulate cancer growth. And that really does not jive with what our guidelines tell us. Our guidelines tell us we can safely consume up to 35% of daily calories of animal protein safely. Obviously, that's not true. We know that bone loss occurs with animal protein. The Atkins diet study showed that 6 months on the Atkins diet was showing a 50% increase in calcium loss in the urine. High protein diets are hard on the kidneys because of the kidney stones and the ketones and nitrogen process where the body is trying to get rid of the nitrogen in urea. And then, of course, the saturated fat and the links to vascular disease and cardiovascular disease. And, we know that these fatty streaks, they show up very early on. And it's just the very early stages of cardiovascular disease. It takes a long time to make your heart and vascular systems sick. And kids start very young. Fatigue is another one. It's hard to metabolize fat into fuel because of the lack of carbohydrates. And I think just meat is hard to digest. There's no fiber. And it makes people tired. Kids are tired. And I would see it all the time in the schools after, a lunch of pizza or chicken nuggets. Kids are tired after lunch. They don't want to work. They can't focus. It's really, really obvious. And then there's just all of these, not so fun facts. I just put a few at the bottom. Poultry is a major source of E. coli and is one of the leading causes of UTIs in children. The number one food source of arsenic in preschoolers in California, a California study, was poultry, chicken. And then, of course, the increased circulation of IGF-1 and PhIP and heterocyclic amines, they all stimulate cancer. So there really isn't a good reason to have your children eating a lot of meat. And then here's the big one. I've heard doctors, even a pediatrician said, referred to the processed food that his kids were eating as kid food. And the suggestion here, when you refer to processed foods as kid food, is that it's something that they're going to grow out of. And we just know that that's not true. These foods are highly addictive, and it's hard to break away from them. It's hard to break up with them. And so even, especially as a child, there's no obvious reason to do it, because of the dopamine rush. Kids just love how they feel we all do, right? When you eat this stuff. There's the GMOs, the glyphosate and the Bt toxin. The Bt toxin is really interesting. I find we focus a lot on the glyphosate, which is a cancer promoter, of course, but the Bt toxin it's an insecticide they inject into the corn, and it actually causes the insects that eat the corn, it bursts holes in their intestine when they eat the corn and kills them. So, if that's what it's doing to the insect intestines, you can only imagine what it's doing to our intestines. And then all of the, preservatives and sweeteners and flavors and colors, these things, and, and then there's all of these other things, high fructose corn syrup, the refined fats, the oils, the sugars. there's just a short list at the bottom here of what these things are doing to us, and especially to our kids, because the kids are so drawn to this junk food. The inflammation, the intestinal inflammation, the cancers, the hyperactivity, ADHD, neurological issues, asthma and allergies, memory problems, seizures, anxiety, depression, neurodegeneration, on and on and on. So there's a real call for getting our kids to eat a healthier diet. And we really do need to move our kids away from this. And the challenge is how we make that happen. I'm going to talk to you about that in a little bit. This is the part that I just wanted to talk about a little bit earlier. And this is what I called the misdirected diet mentality. We have so many parents on these high protein keto diets, these high macronutrient diets. And I know that parents are, they think it's the healthiest way to go. And, it's not entirely untrue. They do eat a lot of vegetables, right? But I do know parents who won't let their children have an apple. I know people who think there's too much sugar in fruit for their kids. And I know of one child who cries, who just wants berries, just wants an apple, and mom won't let them have it. So I think this is really detrimental to kids, this whole idea of macronutrients, more protein, more protein, more protein. And I think that we need to educate parents to think about nutrient density. Our children need micronutrients, phytonutrients. They need nutrient dense whole plant foods. And so this is an education shift. And it's difficult because even though these keto diets and high protein diets are they're not sustainable, and they may work for short periods, they do work for short periods. And so parents think that they're good. I think a lot of parents think they're good. So we need to re-educate moms and dads. And then there's the habits and lifestyles. And this is just challenges that families face. And when you're trying to raise healthy kids or not, these are just challenges. And they're part of just being alive in today's world. The family culture of people who eat in restaurants, and they go to the fairs where all of the food stands are, everything's deep fried. And then the other thing is the rewarding children or even ourselves with junk food or candy. The other thing is nighttime eating. I think that this is a really big problem. Parents tend to do it. I think it's just a way of kind of unraveling at the end of the day and relaxing. After school snacking, I think I have great strategies for that. We'll talk about that. Skipping meals. A lot of kids don't want to eat in the morning, or they're rushing in the morning. A lot of adults too. And of course, our kids are watching us. Then there's the sport and activity nights where we put aside a healthy meal to get our kids to their activities on time. These activities and the sports, they're so important. I really agree that they're important, and we want our kids in sports and doing things that they love to do outside of school. But they tend to interrupt mealtime. And so what do? Well, we zip through, the greater we, I think, we zip through the fast food restaurants, or we just grab something quick. And so the food takes the back seat. And then, of course, there's parties and family gatherings and the social aspect of food and bad food or unhealthy food. And last but not least, travel. I think it's easy to eat badly when you're on a road trip with your kids, or even flying somewhere with your kids. So let's talk about what we can do. How is this? Can you see? I wonder if this is in the way for you. I'm so sorry.
I can see the kid with the carrot holding a carrot, okay. And I can see the words.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So the first steps toward healthy change I think parents have to be, like I just said, first step, parents have got to be aware of promoting a low carb, high protein, macronutrient diet. It's not what kids need. Kids need micronutrients, think nutrient density, think fiber rich whole plant foods. And once we can wrap our head around, micronutrients and phytonutrients and getting nutrient density and asking ourselves, is this nutrient dense, instead of asking ourselves, is this a really good source of protein? I think that's a great place to start when we're trying to lean toward a healthier way to feed our kids. And then the next thing is going to be new habits. If you can get together with your kids and cook meals together, get them in the kitchen, get them busy creating in the kitchen, it's going to be a game changer. Kids love to do something. They want to do something with you. They want to do something creative. They love touching ingredients and smelling things. And it's like a craft. It's really a fun thing. And I think if we can get kids into the kitchen, even 2 nights a week, even one, make a big pot of chili or make something that's going to last a few days. I think planning to cook meals together is a game changer. Think of some non-food rewards for celebrating success. For my son, it was always Pokemon cards. And I know you gave them out for Halloween, Chef AJ.
Yes.
And my son was so thrilled, and he's 21. He thought that was just the greatest thing. So think of non-food rewards. What can you do? Maybe it's a movie night. Maybe it's, just whatever your kid loves outside of junk food. Think of a few things, and you might even brainstorm with your family. Always eat something healthy before you leave the house. If you're going to a restaurant, if you're going to a birthday party, if you're going to a family gathering, have a healthy meal before you go. And if kids think, well, why am I eating now? There's going to be food there. Believe me, I learned this the hard way. It's better not to have a big conversation about why you don't want them to eat the thing that's at that house or at that event. It's just better to say, we don't know when we're going to be eating, or you might be hungry before there's food available. We're going to eat now. You just don't have the conversation about it just gets heavy. It can get really heavy if you start to get into the details. I think the evening routine is also very important for kids. We need to steer them away from eating after dinner. And I think that if we can eat dinner, clean up, and then engage in an evening routine that has to do with self-care, bathing, brushing teeth, homework, all of the things, and always have something available, like a water bottle or a glass of water, or water with some fruit in it, just something that they can drink. Even tea. I love tea in the evening. My daughter now loves tea in the evening, herbal tea. And if they don't like hot tea, you can make it into a cold tea. Throw some ice cubes in there. So there are things that you can do in the evening. Reading is a good one. Homework always, but water beside them is a really important strategy, I think. And early to bed. That's the other thing. Early to bed is going to be a game changer. This was a big, huge deal for us. I found early on, when my kids came home from school, they were tired and they were hungry. And it was really easy for them to get in the cupboard and eat the wrong things. I made a commitment very early on, when they were really young, that every day when they came home, they would have a full plate of fresh vegetables, both of them, their own plate. And even if they were tired and they wanted to sit in front of the TV for half an hour and watch a show, they'd have a plate of fresh vegetables on their lap, and they would eat the whole thing. And I mean, it feels really amazing when you're a mom and you see your kids eating vegetables like that. So if they didn't have a salad at dinner, it didn't matter. They already had, an array of fresh vegetables. And we never, like this little boy here is eating hummus on his carrot. We didn't do that. We didn't have the hummus. I guess it's a great way to start if you're making a shift. Have some hummus or another veggie dip. There's all sorts of them that are out there that are great. Just sort of a transition piece, just way to transition to veggies after school. And you get into a habit of it, and you'll get into a routine. The veggies will always be in your refrigerator, and it just becomes the way it is. And then when your kids will be asking for them before you know it. The early mornings are often busy and rushed. And if kids don't like eating in the morning, or they don't have time to eat in the morning, it's important to give them something. Sometimes overnight oats are a good thing to give them to take, fruit, anything, just something whole and nutritious. And then, if they want to eat it at the early recess or something like that, they can do that. And then, this kind of goes hand in hand with the cooking a few meals together at night, or, a few nights a week or one night a week. Plan ahead for after school activities so that dinner isn't fast food. If you have a pot of chili that you made last night, you can just heat that up and put it in a little glass, carry-on or carry dish, like we call it Tupperware, but try not to use plastic anymore. And take it with you. Just take it. And even if the kids are not eating it before the activity, they might want to have something in the car on the way home. That's not the greatest, it's ideal if they're sitting at a table and eating, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do. All right, where are we? Yeah, here are some other tips to shift children toward whole foods, plant-based nutrition. We've got to add more plants at the beginning of meals. Like I said, the veggies after school, that was a game changer for us. Fresh vegetables and salads first. If your meal includes a salad, which it should, or some sort of fresh vegetables, that should be the first thing that you eat, not the last. Because if kids are full, and they're unlikely to want the vegetables at the end or the greens. Again, get kids into the kitchen. That's really why I created Plant Powered Punks. It's really a learning cookbook. Let them explore ingredients, guide them through food preparation and recipe creation. In Plant Powered Punks, I have a little icon of a beet, and that little beet is beside every instruction where a parent or an adult should be present. And the idea there is that we let our children explore, we let them work through it. And if there's something, like a food processor or a sharp knife, or something else that they have to use that could be, dangerous, then that little beat tells the parent or the adult to stay close by and lend a hand. Growing herbs and vegetables, I think, are really also important. And it teaches kids to learn where their food comes from and how to create their own food. I think we underestimate how much kids love this kind of thing. Kids need to be outside more than ever. They need to be doing activities that are skill building more than ever. Last but not least, keep it simple. You know what? My daughter will open a can of mixed beans. She'll rinse it off, sprinkle some garlic powder, oregano, and basil on top, and that's lunch. So, it doesn't have to be complicated. And you don't have to be chopping vegetables for an hour to make a good meal. Keep it simple. Try to make sure they get all the nutrients that they need, beans and legumes, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. And you don't have to even put things together. I love to put walnuts on the counter and, vegetables and cut up fruit. And it doesn't have to be complicated. That's my point. All right. Again, so some more tips here. When you're shifting toward healthier meals, think of adding more plants. You'd never want to talk to your children about eliminating or giving up anything. If you tell your kid they can never have cheese again, it's not going to go over well. It's better to just nudge that bad stuff out by adding more plants in. And this is something you can do without even having a conversation about. You can have a conversation about it. But my point is that you just don't want your child to feel like they can't ever have something again. I think it's important at this stage, if you're new to this, to try to find substitutes. I call them treat and transition foods. They still are whole foods, but some of them are mildly processed, and they're great substitutes for when you're trying to get away from sugar, and other oils and all of the sugars and all of it. So, think about dried fruit, nut cheeses, natural sweeteners like maple syrup. Maple syrup is one of my favorites. Seasonings like herbs and spices instead of salt are really good. Promote habit forming behavior. So again, don't eat before bed. Get to bed early. Think about what you can do to get your child really enjoying that bedtime routine so they're not thinking about eating before bed. And a healthy start to the day, something in the morning, something healthy in the morning. Veggies at 4. That's the big one that was so wonderful for us and our family. Eating before going out, bringing a healthy dish to family gatherings. This has also been a big deal for us when we go to a family gathering at my brother's or somewhere else where their people are eating things that we don't necessarily eat. We'll bring a dish that my kids really love. And then it all works out. And usually everybody really loves the plant-based dish, right? So that's an important one. And make the connection. Make the connection for children and teenagers, and they will experience the connection between healthy eating, their athletic performance, how they feel in their body, how their skin is healing, and how they feel emotionally. Mental health is a big deal these days, more than ever, I think. And when you feel good in your body, when you have energy, when you're well rested, and you have good, healthy fuel, you're going to feel better, more peaceful, happier. Okay, these are just some notes for the parents. Be aware of preaching or forcing. I made the mistake of talking to my kids about why dairy is so bad and why meat is so bad. And, and it can get really tiresome. I think it's really important to be aware of the preaching or the forcing. Just make beautiful food, make it together, and serve it and have fun with it. It's important to really have fun with it. Keep it positive rather than critical. No guilt. No guilt. You don't want your kids to be secretly eating something that they shouldn't at a friend's house because they can't have it at your house or at home. It probably will happen, and it's just important to keep it positive. I'm not saying it probably will happen, but it could happen. It's okay. Move away from the meat-centered plate. So you don't want to have a plate where there used to be a big hunk of meat with the potatoes and the vegetables. Try to make different things that aren't served that way. Soups, big pots of chili, bean salads, instant pot recipes, lasagnas, wraps, all of those kinds of things. So that just looks like a full meal on a plate or in a bowl. And it doesn't look like that meat-centered plate, so it doesn't look like there's something missing. And make it enticing. Make food look and smell delicious. Here's a big one. It could be controversial for somebody who is very serious about plant-based nutrition, which I am. I'm a lifelong vegan. That's never changing. But we have to make it work in the real world by giving children choices. I know Joel Fuhrman is like a god when it comes to this. His children have never had any of this stuff. I was not as successful, but it has worked. It has worked. When my kids go to a birthday party, if they want to have a piece of cake, I don't talk about it. We don't have a discussion about why they shouldn't have or why they shouldn't, or any of it. What they have learned over time is that the way we eat is the way they like to eat. It makes them feel the best, and it's just their way of being. And it wasn't always easy, but boy, my daughter's 19 and my son is 21, and my son is definitely vegetarian. There's some pizza, I'm not gonna lie, but my daughter is 100%. My daughter's 100% vegan, and I'm really happy for them. They're doing great. Okay, this is just what worked for my family. Like I said, simple meals. We had family favorite recipes. We have, there are 5 things that I could tell you off the top that we love and we have over and over and over again. Butternut squash soup, Papa's tortilla, we call it. Just we have a chili that I just made. There are just some things that we have in our family that, my daughter's away at school right now. When she came home for Thanksgiving, she gave me a list of the favorite things that she missed that she wanted to have. And every one of them was a whole food plant-based recipe. So veggies after school every day, I think, is critical. If you can do it, if your kids are more inclined to eat fruit, that's okay. Try to mix it up. Throw some carrots in there, some cucumber. Smoothies for breakfast are great because they're quick and easy, and they can take them with them if they're running late. Make sure you have fun in the kitchen together. Don't worry about the mess. Don't worry about it. Just have fun. Let your kids touch and feel and smell and taste everything. Grocery store destination travel is a really fun part of our family travel. So I live in a small town. We don't have really fancy grocery stores here. So when we go to the States, we go to all the good grocery stores. And ever since my kids were little, it is a destination. When we go to the States, we go to the grocery stores. We go to Whole Foods Market. We go to the co-ops. We go to we go to all the great stores where there are delis and, or not delis, but, the serve yourself things. And my kids have loved it. So it has really offset that desire to go to restaurants when we travel, because we go to the grocery stores, and that's been really fun. If you're having trouble getting your children to enjoy certain dishes, just add a sauce or a dip or a spread that they love, and it will help. It really will. Again, I already said this, but get creative in the kitchen. Have fun in the kitchen. Be flexible. Being hardcore might backfire. You know your kids best, but it's important to, I think, be understanding and be flexible if you can. Sharing favorite recipes with friends and family have been also super helpful. It's really natural when your children go to other people's homes. Suddenly the moms are calling and saying, hey, that thing that you sent over with Mitchell or Claudia, can I have that recipe? Or, I know that your child's staying the night and I want to make a nice dinner. Do you have a recipe that they really like? And before you know it, your plant-based world is becoming bigger, and people love it. People always love the food. All right. Last but not least, I just wanted to, let me just go full circle here. These are just a couple pictures from Plant Powered Punks. The little characters here are Collie and Flower, the dog and the mouse, and they're in the book throughout. The goal for Plant Powered Punks is to get children curious about plants, to pique their interest about real nutrient-dense whole foods, and get them busy creating in the kitchen, experiencing, touching, smelling ingredients. If they can develop kitchen savvy and understand how to use tools, kitchen tools, they can take these strategies, these tools with them for a lifetime. And 2 of the big ones I think are game changers is learning how to saute your vegetables in water. It's so easy. It doesn't change the taste, but it's something that, we don't learn automatically. But if we can teach our kids this early on, if we can teach our kids how to make a flax egg early on, I think that we can really make a difference. If children can find a few recipes that they love and they can make themselves early on, they are going to be doing that for themselves probably forever. So, the other thing about this is that cravings, we talked about the processed food and the cravings a little bit, but, if kids start to eat nutrient dense foods, and that's what they do most of the time, their cravings will be curbed. We want our kids to feel good in a body that they love, that they honor. And we don't want them to be preoccupied with their health or their weight, certainly when they're growing up. We want them to be free. And I think that eating more plants, eating a plant-based diet is a really great place to start. So I think I'll leave it at that, and I can stop my share, Chef AJ, and we can chat.
Great. All right, Margot, this was a wonderful presentation, and I feel it wasn't just a presentation for kids. I mean, I think this could apply to grown-ups too.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, it really starts with the parents, doesn't it?
I mean, it's just about changing people's diet. And, I agree with you, like what kids do outside the home, you can't control it even if you wanted to. But my question is why do so many parents not control it inside the home, knowing what they know now about how deleterious these foods are?
Yeah, you know what? I can't answer that. I can't. I think it has to do with their own cravings and their own inability to control what they're eating, because they don't have the skills to I think there's a lot of information that people don't have. People don't understand that if they eat a really big pot of veggie chili, they probably aren't going to want chocolate later that night. I think people don't really know. I think people need guidance and they need support and they need help. I really do believe that. And I think it's hard to ask for help. It's hard to know where to get help. I mean, the whole keto and high protein thing is a real movement. And I think people get caught up in that yo-yo diet mentality because it's not that sustainable. And so I feel like people are stuck. And so it's easy. And when you don't feel well as a parent, the last thing you want to do is get into the kitchen and make a really healthy meal for your kids. It's easy to go through a drive-through. It's easy to order a pizza. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I don't know because, I think you mentioned Joel Furman several times, who I'm a huge fan of. He comes on the show times a year. And, I think one of the reasons his children were able to eat this way without really much rebellion is because that's how the parents ate.
Right. Right.
And so they didn't think it was weird or unusual. And they were and I think a lot of times the parents have food addictions. And if they didn't, then why wouldn't they keep a clean household?
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean,
want to be their kid's friend instead of parent,
Right. Exactly. I agree. Our kids were, they were definitely plant-based. They had trouble. They did have some trouble at school. My daughter, when she was in grade 7, her nickname was Spinach. And, and it hurt her feelings and it was hard. But, at the end of the day, they're really proud of the way they eat. They are really, they feel good about it and they feel good, period. So, yeah.
I hear from parents, well, but my especially could be son or daughter, well, they're athletes, so they have to have meat, they have to have more protein, and they're not overweight, so why be so extreme?
Right. My son was a pretty high level hockey player. And I remember parents saying, we are not sure what's going on in this tournament. We're feeding our kids really healthy breakfast, lots of eggs and bacon. And then we come down here and they're sucking wind on the ice. And we don't understand why they can't perform. What's going on? Why is your son so fast. He was a goalie. He was really fast. And I would say, your kid's body is struggling to metabolize and digest this really heavy food, and so they don't have energy to skate fast. So what they need is carbohydrates, and of course, it changed everything. And so, yeah,
I'm sure
but
you're. Have you read either of Dr. Furman's books, Fast Food Genocide or Disease Proof Your Child? Those are my two favorite. And so many people feel, especially, if the kid isn't overweight or has something that could be linked to diet like acne and dairy, that it's like, well, it's not that big of a deal. Like we can wait. But I think the longer you wait to do any positive habit change, the harder it is for everyone.
I think the longer you wait, the longer you're engaging in habits that are not uh, health promoting. And I think everybody can change something, right away. Everybody can make a change. One shift, one thing.
Well,
I
I love
think
your idea of vegetables after school. And the thing is there's certain vegetables that are actually fruit anyway, cucumbers and cherry tomatoes, bell pepper, those are technically fruits, but that's such a great idea. If parents just had that on the counter, because most people are so lazy, they would eat that over than having to go make themselves a snack or a sandwich possibly.
right. It's true. That was a great thing for us. The kids were tired. They were little. They would come home and they would want to sit on the couch and watch a show. And so I just always had the vegetables. And it was a big plate. I mean, it was a big plate. I remember people saying, "Your kid's going to eat all that?" And yes, they're
Yeah,
hungry.
100 calories a pound food.
Right. Yeah. And they would just, it might have been kind of mindless eating because they'd be watching a show and crunching away. Maybe that wasn't great. I'm not sure. But, they were going to be eating something. So it might as well be vegetables.
Yeah.
And to this day, they love it.
I love that. Dr. Nicole Avina, who has like a TED talk with like 10 million views about sugar addiction. She's going to be on the show next month. And she talks about how it's pretty easy to get people and even kids to eat fruit. Fruit is sweet and delicious, but that we have to start that habit of vegetable eating much younger than we realize.
Yes. Yes, we do. I think so. Early. I don't know what we're waiting for. I don't know. I think it should be very early on. As soon as they have teeth.
It's funny. That was so gross when you talked about the doctor or whoever it was that said to puree the meat. I mean, that just sounds terrible. That's like, well, it sounds like baby food almost.
Oh, I mean, could you just even imagine that?
Well, I can because when I was 16 and had my wisdom teeth out, the dentist, the oral surgeon said, okay, you need to puree take some tuna fish, puree it. You got to get your protein. So, make liquid meat, which is
And did
basically,
you do? Did you
yeah,
do
well,
it?
I didn't become vegan till 17. So honestly, I did puree tuna fish. But, when you think about it, dairy is liquid meat too, when you think
It
about it.
is.
So that's not so weird drinking your meat.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I just think I don't think kids really like meat. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe there are kids who just love steak right out of the gate, but I feel like it's more of a learned
Right. And they like the condiments, which are all made from plants. They
right.
like whether it's, they like the French fries and the ketchup and the mustard and the pickle and the bun. Yeah, I don't see a lot of kids just walking around chewing a bone. So here's a question from a live viewer named BG. How do you recommend handling allowing children visiting grandparents who believe that meat and dairy are healthy? It's the same thing like a lot of times when like like parents are divorced and one parent is trying to do it right and the other one they get the mixed message. It's
Yeah.
hard.
I think you can't change people, but you can if you can set your kids up for a situation like that. I guess it depends on their age. Always have them eat before they go. That's a key. If they have a full tummy, they're not going to want to eat when they get there. I think that's a good one. If they're staying for the weekend or something like that, send food with them. Send a meal, send a casserole or a pot of chili, or I keep saying chili because I just made chili, but send something along that the grandparents and the kids will enjoy. And then I think just a real honest conversation is always a good idea. Conversation with the children, depending on their age, and a non-confrontational conversation with the grandparents.
How did you, we just had Halloween. How did you handle it when your kids were younger?
You know, here's the deal. My kids went out for Halloween. They did. They went and they got it all. And they would come home and we would let them have some candy. I can't believe I'm even saying this on your show. But after that first night, the bags went away and they were gone. You know what? They don't even like it after. I mean, it just makes you feel sick. And it's sort of like, well, anything that's addictive like that, you have it and then you feel sick. You just do. And so they would just feel sick and that would be the end of it. And then we would just throw the rest out. So that's how we handled it. My husband has different ideas than me. And then, you know, now they don't even like it. It's just not even a thing anymore. But they did have it. I do feel, you know, bad about that. But they did just feel awful about it. Like they just got tummy aches and headaches and they just felt sick. So, and it makes you feel sick. So it kind of sorts itself out. I guess that's what we did. Yeah.
Hey, why don't you show your book?
Oh, I'd love to show you my book. So here it is. It's Plant Powered Punks. My godson, Connor, is a photographer, and he did all of the photography for me. He did some beautiful pictures. And we had some local kids come, and we did a couple of photo shoots in the kitchen, and they made all the ingredients. That's Collie and Flower, our two mascots. Cute. We have all of the cooking tools. I did all of the drawings for my little graphics, and then I had my illustrator. He turned them into, you know, sort of nice graphics. But I have it separated out. So what I'm trying to teach kids is to learn to use different whole ingredients, like instead of white flour, using buckwheat, amaranth, oat flour, and different kinds of beans, and having fun with fruit salad. So we, you know, get the cookie cutters out for the fruit salad. And yeah, so it's just there's only 28 recipes. And we do it because we did 28 recipes because we wanted to keep it more of a learning kind of cookbook, step by step, easy to follow. And instead of overwhelming kids with 150 recipes kind of thing. So that's what we did. We've got veggie burgers and smoothies, and there are some desserts in here. There's always, we've got power balls, lots of different things. And the key was I wanted a book that kids would love to look through. I wanted a book that kids loved to hold and just turn the pages and look at the pictures. And I think we achieved that. You know, we got lots of great photographs. And I think, you know, there's evidence that children will eat healthy food if they see older kids eating healthy food. So I wanted lots of pictures of children creating healthy food. And then lots of pictures of beautiful, beautiful food.
It's sad that when children do eat healthy, like your daughter in school, that they're the ones that get made fun of. You know, why aren't we making fun of the kids for eating crap? Not that we should be making fun of anyone.
Right.
That's not what I mean.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's really interesting how her friends are. Well, her friends are great. They're all very accepting. And yeah, I think that those are the early years. I don't know if that still goes on in high school or anything like that. I think there's a little bit more open-mindedness as they get older.
Now, here's some questions. Mm-hmm. Are you working on a homeschool classroom curriculum for nutrition? And if so, when will it be ready and for what ages?
So I'm not working on a specific curriculum, but I am a teacher. I'm with the College of Teachers of Ontario. And so what I'm doing is my membership site is filled with and will be continually filled with lesson plans that are mostly for ages grade 1 to grade 6, but they can be modified in either direction, younger and older. And they're set up so that they can be, just adjusted simply for depending on the age. So it's not a specific curriculum, but as a teacher, I can tell you that we're covering all the bases. Some of them are just cooking. Some of them are art. Some of them are math and measurement. Some include writing assignments, but they all include creating something in the kitchen.
That's nice. Yeah. Hey, I don't know if you watch the show, but one of the questions almost every guest gets is, what do you eat in a day and what do you do for exercise?
That's a good one. Well, I am where do I start? So breakfast is something that I always struggled to eat breakfast. I do not feel hungry in the morning. And it took me a long time to figure out that I didn't even know what my hunger cues were. When you're healing from eating issues, you tend not to be tuned into what your body needs. So it took me a long time to realize I don't like eating in the morning. And so Fit for Life was the very first nutrition book that I read way back in the 80s. And they talked about fruit till noon. And so I adopted the fruit till noon strategy, and it's worked really well for me. I love to eat fruit in the morning. I feel it's light. I can manage it. I don't feel heavy or loaded down after I eat fruit. So fruit till noon. And then I eat usually something lighter in the afternoon, whether it's a bowl of soup, a wrap. I don't eat a lot in the afternoon because I'm eating fruit in the morning. And then at night I have usually a heavier meal. I don't know if that's the best. Some of the blue zone people eat their heavier meal earlier on. I tend to eat my heavier meal around 5 o'clock. And it can be anything from, well, tonight it's chili because I made a big pot. But it can be anything from, it's usually bean based. I have lots of beans, lots of Mexican dishes, and lots of cut up veggies, that kind of thing.
Nice. Do you exercise?
Yes, I do. I'm a personal trainer, and so I do like going to the gym. I do like doing weights. I think it's important. I'm 57 now, and so.
Oh, you look amazing, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank
I
you.
told you before we logged on, you look like Sybil Shepherd.
Oh, thank you. Well, you look amazing too, Chef AJ.
Yeah, I did not know you were not that that's that old, but that's fantastic.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, so I do like to do weights, but I have horses, so I do a lot of riding. I'm a runner historically. I used to do triathlons. I don't do that anymore, but I do love running. I love hiking and riding. I definitely love riding.
Well, your skin is beautiful. Do you stay out of the sun intentionally, or you just don't have any in Canada?
Well, no, we do have lots of sun actually. I don't stay out of the sun intentionally. I do have a sunblock in my daily skin cream, but I'm not a big sunblock person. I just cover up, wear long sleeves if it's really, really sunny. And I do have, yeah, I think it's a 15 in my daily cream. Yeah.
Oh, nice. So what's next for you?
Well, this membership site is becoming its own animal. So I really want to get this membership site launched. And so if anybody is interested in getting on the wait list, please, sign up, get on the wait list. If you're signing up to get the slide deck that I shared today, you'll see there's a little link in the thank you page that takes you over to the membership wait list. You can sign up and get on the wait list there. And we'll be opening that up soon. So I'd like to just keep it simple this fall and winter and focus on my membership site. I want to make it just the most robust and wonderful community and sort of educational platform for families, kids, parents, homeschooling parents, and teachers.
That's great. Well, good. Well, I wish you every success.
Thank you so much, Chef AJ. Thanks for having me today.
We're so nice seeing you again, Margot.
You too.
All right. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow a little bit later at 10 a.m. Pacific time for Monday with the McDougals, where Dr. McDougall and Mary will be answering your questions.
Ooh, that's
I know. It's so fun. Take care, everyone. Happy.
Take care.
Bye-bye.